All right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. I'm Onebar with Lupagus and Joe DeLeone, as always, joining us talking some draft. Joe, greatly appreciate you hopping on, man. Happy draft week.
Yeah, we're finally here. I'm going to be watching the movie Draft Day on repeat until the big day
Nice.
is finally here. But man, I can't wait. It'll be nice to turn the page a little bit afterwards. But this is what we do all the work for. Let's see what comes to fruition.
Hell yes.
Blood is pumping. As always, Joe at the Believe Network. He's got the Hack City Football. I mean, he's on pretty much everything. The links will be down in the description. Hit him up. But let's talk some freaking draft. Right out of the gates, I mean, the big talk is, what are the Patriots going to do at 3? If you had to bet Lupagus's house on it, would you say the Patriots will be picking at 3, or do you think they're out of there?
Man, this has been a tough one to really gauge a temperature on because I feel like there's been mixed reviews. And I think also part of this is that throughout the process, their opinion has changed internally as well as the speculation on the outside. When I was at the Combine, from what I had heard, it sounded like they were viewing the next 3 years as a bit of a project for them so that they might perceive this pick as an opportunity to trade back, accrue some picks, and maybe wait to take a quarterback for when they're in a more settled situation instead of trying to force a guy like they did with Mac Jones. But it seems like that it's changed a little bit. So there's a potential for really either. I mean, I don't really know if there's a lot of certainty, but it does still feel like there's a realistic shot that they do trade out, which opens the door certainly for the Vikings to get into that 3 spot.
Well, what Onebar left out is a very important pick for us because we have a bet on it. The loser has to slam a glass of Manwich. So
yeah, we do.
We have Ryan on this
a whole can of Manwich. Well, let me ask you one follow-up on that is, so I don't know who just tweeted out, but again, you can't believe anything you're seeing now, but they're saying that the cost would be the 2 firsts this year, a first next year, and a second rounder in 2026. Is that just insane?
No, I think that's pretty realistic if you think about other teams that have had to trade up into that location. I forget the exact compensation, but when the Bears traded up into the Giants spot, which was a few picks back in order to take Justin Fields a few years ago, I believe it wasn't too far off in compensation. I think there's probably one less first. But you got to take into account here that they're not moving from 7 to 3. They're moving from 11 to 3 in a year where there's a lot of competition to get a quarterback. There is a pretty far drop off after the top few guys. And this is also a very talented just draft class in general. So the Patriots are going to want to try and get out as much of it as possible. But no, I think that sounds pretty realistic just because of the quality and the weight of the picks in this year's class.
Let's talk the number 2 pick in the Commanders. Percent chance Jaden Daniels is that selection, in your opinion?
I'm going to go 50. I think that before Friday, I was willing to say 100%. I was willing to say that, like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. It's a scheme fit. It fits well with what Cliff Kingsbury is looking for in a quarterback. But it really does sound like and feel like what Schefter had reported on, there's some truth to it, that there might not have been a very welcoming experience on both sides. So if there is already a bit of a rocky start to the relationship, this does set up the Commanders in a year where there's a couple of options. They might have Jaden Daniels ranked higher, but if they don't feel like it is a comfortable relationship early on, it might not really behoove them to make that selection if he's going to be unhappy right off the bat. So they could take Drake May. They could potentially draft Drake May if they chose to, or they could trade back. I don't think trading back would make sense for them because they need to figure out their quarterback situation now instead of later, like some of these other teams are afforded the ability to do so.
Behoove will always be a top 20 word. I greatly appreciate you using that. Thank you. I believe anybody that says anything with that word in the sentence. It's been a while. It's probably been a month or so since we chatted. Hottest name leading up to the draft. And that doesn't need to be like a first rounder or, I mean, it can be anybody, but what's a name that's just getting a little bit hotter as we've gotten closer and closer to draft day?
Yeah, I feel that's a really good question because it's hard to think of somebody that's not JJ McCarthy because JJ McCarthy has gotten to this point where now people are saying that, like, whoa, he might be in play for the Commanders. I don't think that that's realistically on the table. I think that's a perfect example of a smokescreen happening right now. I don't think I can pick somebody else besides JJ McCarthy. If we think about where he started in this process, where A lot of people thought that he was a late first rounder from the jump and that he shouldn't even declare in the first place, to the point now where he is in this conversation of being a slam dunk top 10 pick. I think when it's all said and done, I wouldn't be completely shocked if he's not the third quarterback taken. It seems like that there's a capability for that to happen, and some team is certainly going to talk themselves into it. The way that things have been described throughout the past month, I think it's certainly plausible. But yeah, I can't not pick JJ McCarthy because his name has been brought up just so much. It's been hammered in my head, it feels like, for months now.
Let's look at the flip side of that. Maybe some guys who are cooling off, some guys who could be falling down the board farther than we think at this point.
Yeah, I think that if we were maybe to project some guys that slide out of the first round, the one that comes to mind is Xavier Worthy. I think that there was a lot of excitement for Worthy to go maybe in the back end of the first round after he broke the 40 record. But I really thought that throughout this process, there'd be a lot of rumors, a lot of conversation about him, but there really hasn't been any. And I feel like that is probably the most likely if there is a guy to not slide, but just maybe not live up to the expectation of hype that he could go a lot earlier. I feel like also Olu Fashanu has just kind of cooled a little bit. I think that other guys like Amarius Mims, particularly Troy Fotanu, their draft stock has risen quite a bit. And it seems like Fashanu, who the beginning of the college football season was once regarded the top tackle in this class, could maybe be the third or the fourth taken.
Any scenario where you could actually see one of the top 4 quarterbacks falling out of the top 10?
So I tweeted this today. I think that there is a very realistic shot that this happens. I think that it's always the case with quarterbacks where we do this exercise where we all project all 4 of the top guys to go in the top 4 picks. And then come draft night, we're sitting and we're waiting we usually need some sort of a trade up. And we're always sitting there waiting for, all right, when's the trade up going to happen? And then it doesn't come. And then either one guy or 2 guys slide. I think back to the year where Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance were picked. That wasn't just a continuous string like everyone thought it was going to be. Justin Fields slid further than expected. Mac Jones slid further than expected. So I think that we could probably see, because there's going to be a lot of last-minute negotiating that's going to try to happen, especially once 3 are off the board. Some teams are going to feel less rushed. Some of the teams picking are going to say, you know what, screw the trade back. We're just going to take a guy that we really like, and we don't want to miss out on Joe Alt, Brock Bowers, Marvin Harrison Jr., whoever it might be, Malik Neighbors. We don't want to miss out on any of those guys, so we're going to stay put. I really do think that there is a very realistic chance that somebody does end up going closer to 10 or maybe a little bit later.
Wow. Let's talk to Vondre Sweat. We asked your good buddy Ryan Roberts his opinion on where he may go. I know you guys both weren't overly high on him when you guys did your D-line rankings. Of course, you tweeted out those your top 10 before I got to watch the video. Spoiled it for me like you do. But Vondre Sweat, where do you see him going?
Yeah, I think that he is going to be a day 3 pick. I think that before the DUI situation, the legal troubles that he got into, I think that the media love for him didn't really match the NFL love, because what he is a 2-down player. And I think that he's a super high value 2-down player. I think he's going to be really dominant against the run. I think he's going to be just a fantastic run stopping guy in short area situations, somebody that you want to blow up centers, but he doesn't have much pass rush upside right now. And it might not really pan out that he'll ever have a pass rush upside. So for him to get there, it might take a couple of seasons. I don't think an NFL team is going to invest a pick in a guy that is only going to play 2 downs at a time, and it's not going to be really available for them on 3rd downs. But outside of that, there were already concerns on his focus, especially for the fact of just how much weight he's gained over his time at Texas. You talk to some people, and it seems like there's just general speculation that, maybe he wasn't truly taking care of himself. And I to me, really think it's a problem. If a guy is going around getting drunk during his pre-draft process, this is the most important job interview of your life. And outside of that, your trainers and your agent are constantly telling you throughout this process, you've got this going on. You're talking to this team today. You've got these workouts. You need to stay focused. You could celebrate afterwards. I have been close to that process before at a training facility with talking with agents. And I know that that is something that is emphasized to the highest degree. And if you can't focus and decide not to get drunk during a short period of time, let alone get behind the wheel of a car. That to me is a little bit of an issue, and I think the NFL is going to perceive it that way as well. He could end up going, somewhere in the middle of day 3.
Wow. Joe scolding T'Vondre Sweat right now.
Deservedly so.
Well, is it something stupid? I mean, that's how this works.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, no, it blows. Let me go back to the quarterback quick. Let's say the Vikings hang tight at 11, trying to hope for that scenario where you're saying maybe a quarterback starts to fall. If they end up whiffing, somebody trades up with the Jets and snipes somebody right before the Vikings. Is Michael Penix, would you say he's in play at 11? Would that be an insane pick?
I don't think it'd be an insane pick, but if I were to make a decision based on fit, I feel like Bo Nix is the better fit for the Vikings. I don't know what, and this is why I love doing these team-specific shows and guesting, is because I love to kind of hear what the fan perspective is, what the beat is saying that there's been the most interest for. I just think if I pull back and from in a vacuum perspective, what would work with Kevin O'Connell, I think works well with how Bo Nix plays. Quick decision maker, is able to throw on the run, could be an asset in the play action game. The way that we saw with the success with Kirk Cousins, I've compared and I've said Bo Nix is a more athletic version of Kirk Cousins. So I think that Bo Nix makes the most sense. Penix at 11, I don't think would be too crazy, but I just don't know if that would be the best fit for the Vikings.
All right. Now the most burning question of them all. Where does the first specialist come off the board?
Man, that is a tough one. And I feel like you guys did definitely already ask me this. I don't think it's going to, like a while ago, or someone else did, not going to be until day 3, late day 3. I don't think this is like a crazy good specialist class. There's some good names. There's some quality guys. Reichard from Alabama, the Missouri kid. I'm not super big on specialists this year as I typically am, but I probably wouldn't be until somewhere on the middle to the end of day 3.
Man, Joe, former specialist yourself. I figured, you got these
guys.
I'm
I'm struggling this year, man. There's too many other guys I got to keep up with. I can't keep up with the specialists anymore, man.
It was beautiful. Well, be sure to keep up with Joe DeLeone on Twitter. All those links will be down in the description. Hit him up. He's fantastic. He's our favorite draft analyst expert to have on every damn year. And Joe, we appreciate you making time, man. Have a wonderful draft week.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys.